So for today's video, I want to look at players that I'm considering for 2021. Now the players I'm looking at here, most of them aren't premiums, and they are all pretty much high draft picks from the previous 2 years. And I think next year we might need to get creative, because we're expecting list sizes to be cut, and not only that, a lot of rookies who shouldn't have played this year have played this year due to a lot of players being managed. Not only that, we're not going to get a very good read on the draft. So yeah, it's going to be very difficult, but we're looking at some players. I think mid prices will be more relevant. At the way I'm looking at it right now, the way I expect it to be, mid prices will be more relevant than ever next year. And we will need those mid prices for, because it's going to be harder to get a read on job security for rookies, and there'll be less. So we need them to hold their spot, make some money. And I'll go through some of them today. Now the first one, this guy could be a premium, and we'll speak about Jack Lukosius. I'm a big fan of Jack Lukosius. I think he has really good scope, even now, to improve. If he plays, he should play as a third tall in defence. He takes kickouts, lots of effective long kicks, reads the play really well, and pick 2 in a super draft. His last 2 games, well, round 16 and round 17 in 2020, he has been really, really poor. Maybe it's fatigue or something, but watching him play, a lot of clangers the past few games, seems disinterested. So that's a bit of a red flag, and it's end of season, they're not making finals, who knows, but I didn't like it. But one to watch. I think there's too many reliable types in defence to go past. So we'll get Whitfield, we'll get Lloyd, we'll get Laird, Tom Stewart. Wonder what Ridley can do with another preseason. And not only that, intercept defenders have been scaled up a bit more this year than usual. So and they have more time on ground. So I think it's unlikely that I pick Jack Lukosius, but one to watch. Now we'll get into a few more interesting picks. And the next guy I'll speak about in defence, we're going to need someone cheap, and I think he's averaging, was it 59? Lachie Ash. So he's averaging 59, so he'll be pretty cheap, in the 200s somewhere, I assume, high 200s. And he was a high pick, I believe pick 4. His body looked ready to go, a lot of run and carry. He's got that weird running style, so he was looking pretty good. He hasn't shown a lot. I think he's improved as the season's progressed, but not a whole lot. But we've seen some improvement. And with Zach Williams possibly leaving, we don't know that yet, but nothing. I think clubs are going to go hard for Zach Williams. Lachie Ash could be the guy at halfback. He's already getting games ahead of Cummings, who's been on the list for a few years. So I think Lachie Ash could be a mid-pricer we look at, someone that should have good job security and make us a bit of money. So yeah, one to watch is Lachie Ash for next year. And I think that's all for the defenders. I have Nick Newman here, but this is for, I'm mostly doing high draft picks, but Nick Newman will be pretty cheap as well, so I thought I'd mention him. Now in the midfield, I actually don't have any forwards listed here, because I don't know who's getting forward status. But we'll go through a few midfielders, mid-prices that we might be able to look at. And the first one we can speak about is Tom Green, also known as Patrick Cripps Jr. So every time you hear the name Tom Green in the media, they just say he's a young Patrick Cripps, which he pretty much is. So we can understand that. Played really well in the preseason, and his last game, I think he scored about 120. So we'll see what happens with the Giants trade period if they trade some midfielders out. There's a lot of young mids, but it's pretty obvious to me that the one they should persist with is put games into is Tom Green. Haley doesn't really play inside. I'm not sure if he can or not. He has the body to, but I'm not sure they want to use him there. And he'll probably be traded anyway. As with Cardwell as well. So I think they probably want to persist with Cardwell if they hold him in the midfield. But still, I think Tom Green is the guy who's shown a lot of signs. We can see his ceiling already is pretty high. And we saw Patrick Cripps, he came on pretty quick as well. I think he was in his 3rd year or 2nd year. I think he had an injury somewhere in between that. I can't remember which one. But Tom Green, his body's ready to go. Probably the biggest disgrace was Tom Green going at pick 10. Obviously, everyone knew the Giants were going to bid on him, but he had no right to be taken at pick 10. He is a think of him as a top 3 pick because that's what he should have been. But yeah, unbelievable amount of contested possessions. Was it 20 or something? Just absurd for a first year player. Ridiculous. He's averaging 73, so he'll be in the low 300s, I think. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe mid 300s. But still, obviously in previous years, it's not ideal if you want a player who you think is going to, I don't know, make 100k, you might as well just go a rookie. But that might be all we can have. And he has a ceiling to go better than that. So we'll see how he goes in the preseason. And I think another preseason will do him a lot of good. And watching him very closely. So I'm not sure what to expect in terms of numbers-wise from him. It really depends on how he goes in the preseason. But clearly a high ceiling, and another preseason will do him a lot of good. But yeah, we'll see how much he can improve. Try and get a read on that during the preseason. I'll also speak quickly about Caleb Serong. I have not watched a lot of Caleb Serong this year, but I do know that his numbers stacked up pretty close to Matt Rao. I think it was under 18s, or TSC Cup, something like one of those last year, and didn't get a lot of time on ground this year. And when he was on the ground, I think his points per minute are pretty high. Fremantle have been a bit weird with time on ground. We've seen it with Andy Brayshaw this year. But yeah, fully expect Caleb Serong, built like a brick house pretty much with those quads. They are massive. Not that I shouldn't harp on about that as I did with Dunkley, but that's another story. But Caleb Serong, I like the look of, and yeah, another preseason should do him some good. So to have those numbers second to Rao, really impressive. So the scope is definitely there, and the points per minute are there. We just need to see some improvement over the preseason. Finally, now this one could be a premium, and we'll speak briefly about Sam Walsh. So with Sam Walsh, I'm not sure who takes the points from Walsh in the midfield next year. Cripps, who knows what happens with Cripps. Mark Murphy is 33, Ed Kerno is 31 next year. I don't understand why they're persisting with two 31 plus year olds in the midfield, but that's up to them. But yeah, who are the young guys taking the mid points? I guess Setterfield's doing alright. So there should be enough points to go around. The only thing was Sam Walsh, I think he had 6 CBAs on the weekend. So it looks like they want to use him inside and outside rather than pure inside, which makes sense because his gut running can be a difficult matchup for the opponent. So, but yeah, I think 5 round average of 125, something like that, something ridiculous. So we know mentally he's there, he can do it. Physically, maybe another preseason should do him, get him to almost or around the All-Australian level. Because really, that wing spot, it's his if he wants it next year, I think, for the All-Australian team. Because there's a whole heap of guys that you can put a blanket over that you could pick. So that's another story anyway. So Sam Walsh will watch. He has the end of season average, but yeah, do wonder. We just need to monitor him. The talent is definitely there, and the work ethic is there. The last player I want to speak about is this guy is looking like a bust. But one Chase Jones. So he was all the talk for the Crows in the preseason this year, and for whatever reason, it just did not work this year. I think you look at Chase Jones as like a draft prospect. I think All-Australian in the under-18s. The attributes of him, the tools he has that differentiate him: speed. He can burst from a clearance. He can actually kick a few goals. I watched him kick, I think it was 3 or 4 goals, maybe 3, in the SANFL. Maybe it was a prelim 2 years ago. He was like, I was pretty much saying, we need to play this guy. He's really good. So I was looking forward to watching him this year. Unfortunately, something's gone wrong, and I think a lot of it is running patterns. It might need to be fixed. I'm not sure, but when he gets the ball, he looks good. He makes things happen, and he can create scores. Unfortunately, he only does that twice a game. So, yeah, his disposal counts have been pretty atrocious this year. But the midfield opportunity will be there for him. The Crows want to persist with him. He's a high pick. And I will need to see really good scores in the preseason, because he was all the talk this year and it just didn't come to fruition at all. And he was terrible in the Marsh series. So if we can see significant improvement from Chase Jones, the attributes are there for him to be good. It's just he's not quite there yet. And he's going to be really cheap. Average of 46. What's he going to be, 200k or something? I think he'll be mid only, not mid forward. Yeah, well, he was getting a lot of CBAs and not a lot of stats. But so that's the list. I don't have any rucks and I don't know who the hell we're getting in the forward line. All I know in the forward line, if we get Dunkley or we get Marshall, lock them in. Maybe keep a watch list on Marshall. See, maybe he plays a lot more forward or something. That's always the risk, but still fully expect him to play ruck and forward. And if Ryder goes down, you have to have Ron Marshall. So lock in those two for now. I think we're also getting Dane Zorko in the forward line, but I like him as an upgrade target for now. Wonder if his Achilles will heal up. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you can keep a few of these players in mind. I certainly will be. And yeah, most of these guys aren't keepers, but they're ways of making money with very, very, very low chance of being keepers. So, but yeah, they should have the role, should have improvement. So expect them to make money at least. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.